playoff weekend is absolutely massive for every team involved.
It's really what matters. It's everything.
Whoever wins can go to Paris, so I mean, that's pretty cool too.
Playoffs is the ultimate test for this split.
Take the laser! There now! It's gonna be Kiwi Kid! He gets the kill!
All of our LCS work, it's all preparation for this match.
We have something to prove, and we're going to make everybody know that we're one of the best teams.
Let's face it! Oh god! The boomerang misses! The triple for Shiptur! The quadra kill coming in for Shiptur 6!
To send your whole team to All-Stars to represent your region, that's everything.
Welcome to day one of the North American League Championship Series Spring Playoffs. We're coming to you live in front of this incredible audience here in Los Angeles. I am Trevor Quickshot Henry, and with me is Sam Colby Hart McKenza, and we want to welcome our special guest analyst for playoffs, Brandon St. Fishes DeMarco. Saint, thanks for being with us, man.
Thanks, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's good to be here as well. Right, let's get into it. The big news coming out of the European LCS is Fnatic has secured their trip to Paris by taking home the spring title. They will be joining SK Telecom T1K, OMG, and the Taipei Assassins. And we are just 3 days away from finding out who their North American counterparts will be. Here's a look at how the teams stand in the bracket. Cloud9 and TSM both have their first round byes. They will face the winners of today's 2 quarterfinal matchups.
And in our first match today, we will see the 3rd-seeded CounterLogic Gaming squaring off against the 6th-seeded Coast, and then it's the 4th-seed Dignitas for the 5th-seed's Curse.
Well, today's losers will face off to see which team is sent to relegation and will do battle with a challenger team to reclaim their spot in the LCS. Right, guys, we're going to start with some big news. Scar's returned to the middle lane. Kobe, you spoke to him in week 11. Did you have any indication that Scar was thinking about coming back?
Well, he definitely wanted to make a point that he's not dead. He still wanted to play the game. He likes the game, but he had accepted his sort of retirement very gracefully. He moved into the coaching role very quickly, and everybody was happy with it. He was off at PAX, and then he got this call to come back. He himself said like something must have gone wrong with Golden Glue in their scrims that they were having. So it seems like Dignitas, even though they are bringing back Scar and they are excited, it's kind of them choosing the lesser of two evils at this point, and we'll have to see how they can perform with Scar with such little practice.
Yeah, it's a difficult position to be in. Saint is a position that you've sort of been in before, making a big lineup change before a big weekend. Do you think Scar is going to be able to come back into this position recharged, ready for playoffs?
It's really rough going into that, just jumping back in that position, and Scar has been at PAX for the past week, so I'm kind of scared about how many games he's actually played, and I don't know, the scrims must have been going really, really bad. They're just like, all right, you played for like 2 days, come show up for playoffs. So I'm a little scared for Dignitas.
Well, we'll have to see what his mechanical ability, how it's going to turn out with so little practice. Let's turn our attention to the first matchup of the day. It is going to be CLG taking on Coast. And CLG are looking good for probably a deep run in the playoff bracket. Saint, what's your take on CounterLogic Gaming's chances?
To just sweep the whole bracket. To be honest, I think they're looking pretty good. It's they have really good team play and really good decision making late game, and of course Doublelift and Aphro, like I think they're hands down the best bottom lane right now. They just have amazing synergy. You can hear the crowd cheering. Yeah, they have really amazing synergy, and like all the players have stepped up. Dexter stepped up, Link stepped up, and Nien's had a pretty good showing too. So I'm liking CLG right now.
Yeah, since Rush Hour got married and featured in the Facebook magazine, they're definitely getting. Kobe, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, they definitely do look good. When they're on, they are definitely one of the top teams. Their rotations around the map, their objective control, they all look really solid. However, when they crumble, like they do choke pretty hard. So if it's going to be a bad run for CLG, then they're going to go down in flames. But if they're going to do well, then they can definitely challenge TSM. They can challenge Cloud9 for that top spot.
So it's interesting you say that because there are 2 teams taking part. It is Coast on the other side of the bracket, another team that has shown flashes of greatness, but they've also struggled to close games out. So what's your take on Coast's chances against CLG and deeper if possible?
Pretty ugly. I mean, Shiptur, he has like amazing plays. He's a standout player. You're just like, wow, that guy he's almost like Faker status sometimes. Just like, he just completely took out the team by himself. But, I mean, I don't want to dime his team out. It feels just like he's just like dragging this dead weight, this huge dumbbell or something behind him. And he's like, please, let me do this. So, I don't know. Maybe he'll be able to do it this time. But I doubt it.
Strong words. Anything to follow, Kobe?
Okay, so if we look at the matchup on paper, Coast versus CLG, then actually, you know, Coast kind of looks like they have the advantage in their solo lanes. So they have very strong solo laners, and then CLG has the bottom lane in the jungle. But if you look at the whole team together, CLG's team play is so much better than Coast team play. They're just kind of on another level. And with the meta right now, the team play is what matters most. I think CLG have a really big upper hand.
Solo queue stars versus team play. We'll see who is going to be coming out victorious. For you guys at home, remember all the inside scoop on the players, the teams. You can find it all on lolesports.com. While you're there, let us know who you think will come out on top. Simply click on schedule, select the quarterfinals, and lock in your votes.
Also there, you can study up on all league action, stats, analysts, and the in-depth features and videos on demand. And quick shot. Those videos are not just the videos that fans want. They demand them.
Yeah, well, I am now demanding your thoughts on our Twitter question. Today, we're asking you, who is the most clutch player in the North American LCS and why? I want to pose the question to the table. Saint, who's your player? And don't steal Kobe's now.
I'm going to have to say hi just because he's like a workhorse. He's always there. He's always performing. And sometimes he's handed like a bad situation, and he just always comes out on top of it. You know, he just looks really clean. I think he's an underrated player, and he just always performs.
You know, plus sometimes he'll distortion into the Ziggs ultimate just for flashy
style points, man. Yeah.
But yeah, I have to go. If we're talking about clutch plays, Shiptur. I mean, this year he solo killed a Nexus with maybe 100 HP left at the end. You got to give it to the guy. Even though the team doesn't lose, I mean the team does lose. He's not able to win all the time. He comes out with so many clutch plays. He tries his hardest, even when they are fighting from behind.
Well, for you guys at home, send us your responses at LOL Esports and be sure to use the hashtag LCS. We may just read your tweet later on in the show. Now, let's throw it across the studio to Freak and Jat to take us into Game 1 of the series.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. What's up, guys? We're back. I'm David Freak Turley. With me is Joshua Jat Leesman. I've already talked to you before. We're okay. Let's dive into our first matchup of the day. Best of 3 series between Counter Logic Gaming and Team Coast. Now, Jat, you have to marvel at where CLG are compared to where they were at the start of the season.
Yeah, CLG is just a team transformed. The first 3 weeks was a rotating roster of subs and role swaps, and in that period, they went 4-5. But then Dexter joined the team, Link moved back to mid lane, and the team immediately started to climb up the standings, going 14-5. In that stretch. They've become a team with strong coordination, great map movements, and decisive objective control, which is not something you ever thought I would say about CLG this season.
They've really turned it on. So even though CLG performed better late in the season, we've yet to see this team excel in the postseason, where the pressure is even higher and there's even more at stake.
Yeah, and that may be true with CLG. They have never won a quarterfinal series in LCS history, actually. In the 2013 spring playoffs, they lost to XDG. Then in the summer, they lost to TSM 2-0. So they have to get past their nerves and win a playoff series.
Yeah, they're going to have to try. But for Coast, they can take a degree of confidence from their past playoff performance.
Yeah, taking a step back, in the 2013 spring playoffs, Coast started off in the 6th seed as well, just like they are now, and they ended up finishing 2nd place. Throughout the split, they've shown they are a team that you can never really count out or in because they can't close games. Everyone remembers TSM's 11-game winning streak getting snapped by Coast and Shiptur at the end. So this is really their time to show the rest of the league that they are not a bottom-tier team because many still consider them to be one.
Yeah, they nearly snapped Cloud9
streak as well.
Streak at the end of that one as well. So, like, guys come so close. So we've seen throughout the year that Coast is a team that focuses on getting their solo lanes ahead. But they'll need to carry that lead into the mid-game and the late game if they hope to beat CLG.
Against CLG or against like any of really the top teams, we really were kind of relying on Snowball in the lane phase. Basically, after the lane phase, we kind of just fell over.
We have strong enough laners to not just get dominated by their solo laners, as well as a really, really strong bot lane.
They all just try and win lane and win the game as 5 people, but there's really no direction on what you should do next.
I think they're a lot more organized than us. Case in point, they're very organized and we're kind of just all over the place. We really want to take the first win because we're really momentum based, so if we can get that first win, we should be able to close out the series versus them pretty easily.
The first win definitely snowballs your morale as a team. if you're going to lose the second game, it's okay because you still have another one.
You can kind of feel hopeless from there because it's like, well, what do you really change? And you can't really think of anything, so you gotta just like hope you outplay that, but them just like crushing you the first game is, you know, still in your head, so that's scary.
In terms of like players, I don't think that we're like have this huge significant lead in terms of skill or anything. I think if Coast really does get like their team communication down and like start playing meta champions or just start like playing a little smarter, they have a really good chance to beat any team actually.
I think CLG's a good team, but I think honestly that we have not been playing that well. I think that we'll be able to beat CLG whether it's a 2-0 or a 2-1. I think we'll be able to do it.
I actually want to talk about like that quote Doublelift just put out there where he's like, Coast are like they're almost there. I remember at the very beginning with Super Week, he's like, yeah, I expected Coast to go 4-0 Super Week.
Yeah, a lot of the teams like TSM and CLG were expecting big things from Coast at the start of the year, but Coast just hasn't had the teamwork, exactly like they were saying in that video.
Yeah, and we'll see if they've improved it in the couple of weeks they had some time to do some practice. Let's check out the starting lineups now. On the blue side, Counter, Logic Gaming, Nien in the top lane, Dexter in the jungle, Link in mid, Doublelift on AD carry, and Aphromoo on support.
And on the red side, it is Coast, ZionSpartan in the top lane, NintendudeX in the jungle, Shiptur in the mid lane, WizFujiiN on AD, and Daydreamin on support.
So now it's time for our featured matchup of the series. It's going to be the mid lane, Link versus Shiptur.
Yeah, and when Dexter joined the team and Link moved back to the mid lane, Link got a lot of attention and was a spotlight player to watch. But now CLG has become even more team-oriented and focused on coordinated map movements. They win games, but Link hasn't necessarily gotten the attention the way he used to, despite him performing quite well.
Yeah, but you contrast that with Shiptur, who's been the standout playmaker constantly that Coast relies so heavily on.
Everyone remembers the big moments for Shiptur. He danced around TSM's Nexus. He got a late-game quadra kill against CLG. He is a consistent carry for Coast, but if Link can shut him down in lane, it's going to go a long way towards CLG getting the win.
So this is going to be the real test for both these teams then is CLG, can they actually make a playoff run in the LCS, because they haven't just yet. And they've never had like the standout playoff performances just in general. I remember season 2, they got the 3rd place spot. They dropped the Dignitas there. Like these guys would never actually turn it on in the postseason, no matter how consistent they tend to be. Coast, I mean, they didn't get to play the playoff summer split. They dropped to 7th there, but bad regular season, but they're playoff shiners.
Still counts, even if they didn't make the playoffs, because their record's
yeah, their playoff record's good.
Really, though, I don't feel like CLG's ever been a stronger team than they are right now.
I think so.
At least because if we think all the way back to when they were actually the dominant team in North America, there wasn't much of a competitive scene back then. Now these guys have really came together. You can tell they've all made big strides in the way they play. Doublelift in particular, he reached that moment, I'd say almost a year ago, where he wasn't really looking on ways to improve his game, and he's moved past that. He's understood that he could just sit in lane and farm all game and get farm, but that's not the best way to win. He's doing that and moving around the map with his team and team fighting well.
Yeah, I think it's the best way to sort of mature as a player is you can get those decreasing returns on individual skill, but the more you know about how to play with the team, how to make calls, how to choose engages, that's the big deal. I remember he used to talk about playing with Chowster so much, how Chowster would train him up how to play, but now he's the longest standing member on the roster. He's the guy with all the history. He's the guy with all the knowledge.
And he's drawing Vayne bans still. So he's understanding his strengths, but working to supplant his weaknesses with more strength.
With more strength. Yes, absolutely. It's just such a great choice right now. Shiptur pulls up the Ziggs ban. I think CLG still has some memories of those team fights. Shiptur nearly single-handedly won that game. Daydreamin getting his Andy banned away as well.
I actually feel like that Ziggs ban serves multiple purposes. When CLG is rotating properly, they do a lot of early game grouping and turret sieging, and it's incredibly difficult to push down against a Ziggs. So they're really getting rid of Shifter's best wave clear champion, as well as one of his best champions overall.
True. We'll see how much CLG can do then in the mid game by the time you've got like an Athene Ziggs, what that would have done compared to what Shiftur ends up getting here in the lineup. CLG taking their time with their bans though. They want to make sure that even if they did predict Coast's bans so far, that they're still happy with what they chose to do before. Lee Sin removed away, so Zion using another champion. I want to say though, Jax still open. That's a big one that I got to think about.
Nidalee and Jax were actually banned in pretty much every game, actually in the OGN quarterfinal match that happened last night, and Team Coast really thrives off both of those champions. Shifter's Nidalee is awesome, and ZionSpartan was really the first one to start taking Jax here in North America. Talked to Nien earlier in the back room. He said he was going to play Heimerdinger top lane. Then he smiled, and I said he's going to play Shyvana. And he's like, yeah, I'll play Shyvana. Because he's played it 16 times, but it's Jax!
Oh, they steal away the Jax. Now the question for me is, we typically see Renekton as a good lane counter to Jax.
It's true.
Coast like, yeah, if we get ahead early in lanes, we'll be okay. And that champion's not banned.
This is awesome, actually. So ZionSpartan, even though he can play Renekton and shuts down Jax fairly well, it's not his style. If he has to usually pick between the Renekton Shyvana things in top lane, he almost always goes with Shyvana. It's very rare that he ends up playing Renekton, but against Jax, I wonder what his options really are. That's a bold strategy by CLG, leaving that much stuff up, knowing that Coast was going to want to take Jax anyway, and then just swiping it away from him. Nien trying to diversify his champion pool.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. That's not the Nien sort of type of champion. He tends to play more of the tanky top laner type guys, so Coast going to make do with other lanes here. THRESH picked up for Daydreamin, LeBlanc there for Shiptur, so maybe not quite as much wave clear, but certainly playmaking for the mid laner.
Yeah, last game of the regular season, Shiptur started 10-0-2 against Cloud9 on LeBlanc. He is a formidable threat with that champion. It actually plays even better with the THRESH for added mobility with that Dark Passage, the Lantern, as they say. That's some powerful picks coming out from Coast. There's also an outside chance on the CLG side that it could be a jungle Jax.
True.
Most likely not, but just considering Nien's champion pool has been fairly limited and Jax is a new addition, there's always that chance that you could throw in the jungle Jax. It's gaining a lot of popularity around the world.
It's interesting, actually. I remember it was Doublelift talking in the video we just saw. He's like, yeah, you know, if Coast learned some more of those like meta champions, where like Zion was like the only guy playing Jax, and now like everyone's playing it, so it is meta champion.
Yeah.
It's like, well, maybe they're just determining everything, and you guys should follow quicker. Who knows? Lulu, though, Lucian also picked up there for CLG, so picking up a lot of comfortable champs for them.
Lulu, of course, had some decently sized nerfs in the 4.5 patch. 80 base damage was dropped off her health picks. You can also not put a pix on someone and get 2 glitter lances off, yet she has still remained a decent priority pick, I'd like to say. Has not been getting first pick nearly as much, but can still provide a lot of pressure and still synergizes with CLG's roaming playstyle, with their want of getting move speed on a lot of champions, being able to shove lanes quickly, and most likely just to win lane for Link against Shiptur.
That's going to be the goal for this one, and of course if you can roam around and make plays, then that's going to be all that Link wants to go for here. Coast going to make some new picks up though. Ezreal grabbed, interesting. Not one I see off for WizFujiiN, but also the jungle Xin Zhao. It is 4.5.
Yeah, the Ezreal is to generally have a better counter to Jax's Leaf Strike, being able to very quickly get out of the way. And the Xin Zhao is just the new patch.
Yep.
He has been excessively helped by the Pharaoh Flare because he was always good early game with Wriggles, but now he has a much better transition into the mid and late game if he can eventually transform that Wriggles into a Pharaoh Flare. We'll have to see if Nintendo can use that. It does fit his style because it's a heavy ganker, and when he is at his best, he is getting Zion and Shiptur farmed up. However, it is somewhat unsafe early game ward-wise, which is actually something that Coast has to do a lot of against CLG's map rotations.
That's true, yeah, is how well can you show up to these fights in time. They're not great defensive champions. It's like if you know, CLG sets up and starts the siege, bad things.
That's it.
CLG Nocturne.
It's a support Lulu, because Aphromoo has always played support Lulu, and they're going with the mid lane Soraka. That is some clever stuff there for CLG.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense. Thankfully, at least for the Coast lineup, it wasn't like they baited the pick. The LeBlanc was picked blind anyway, but Logic Gaming making sure they know about this bottom lane setup and say, yep, we're happy with all of this. So now the pick is the Coast top laner, unless it's like top Xin Zhao, which I doubt. Say, okay, what are you going to fight Jax with? You waited the entire champ select to make your choice. Yeah. What's it going to be?
And the interesting thing about this that I like so much is these guys have had 2 weeks to prepare for this playoff matchup. And they've had 2 weeks to play on this patch, which changed a lot. We're going to see way more heals, obviously. Right now, CLG is slated to have 3 of them on their lineup, actually, plus the Soraka. A totally different team comp coming out from them. We get to see Zion on Rise. He played that once, I believe, and did not do well on it during Super Week. But really, this CLG lineup is something completely different.
Yeah. It's actually a little bit akin, I mean, not entirely, right, because you're not seeing like a top lane AP champion, but it's like a little bit akin to what Fnatic was running in their successful run, where you've got a lot of defensive,
heals and shields.
Right, a very kitey AD carry, an opportunistic jungler there, and then in this case, it's a very split pushing top laner, so it's actually a little bit more of a Korean style, where Jax is on his own. It's the comps that SKT was running.
They have much more dive potential, CLG as a team, with that team composition. It's all about them being strong in the laning phase and whether or not Dexter can get ahead on Nocturne and just finish off fights during split push.
Yeah, so see if they can do it though. As the teams load into the Rift, let's check out who you're predicting to win. With 86% of the vote, you're tipping this in Counter Logic Gaming's favor.
Yeah, they have dominated Coast statistically throughout the year. It is a huge favorite here for CLG. People expect them to go deep within the playoffs, so 86%.
We'll see if they can do it now today. We're also adding a new feature. During the game, we'll be checking with you on Twitter to see who you think will win each game.
Tweet your game predictions using the hashtag CLGWin or the hashtag CSTWin for Coast to @LOL Esports. And we will be checking in throughout the day to see how you're voting.
Right now, it's 86 to 14. Both those numbers can shift.
That was the pre-vote.
Game. Yes.
Now comes the Twitter vote.
Yep. We'll see where that moves on over time. And, you know, if Shifter starts 10-0, you might see that shift way over to the red side. Yeah, move over left. This is, I know, right for everyone else.
It's going to be tough for him to assassinate the heal Soraka.
That's true. Well, yeah, so outside of Summoner Heal, though, for what it's worth, outside of Summoner Heal, Soraka, or I should say LeBlanc, has a total of 3 seconds of silence. So if you can make it, happen, you only have to get through the Summoner Heal, and you've got a Knight to help kind of mitigate that. There's a chance, as difficult as it is, there's a chance you can just, like, you know, burst that guy out. But Link, I want to point out, heavy defense tree, already has Runic Blessing. Guy is making sure that he is durable at the start of this game.
The 50 health shield upon spawn.
Yeah, that is standard for mid-Raka is 21 defense.
Because so early on in the game, what a lot of Sorakas like to do, high in particular, actually, we'll get back to that later because these guys are potentially collision coursing with each other. THRESH would have a chance of hooking Nien if he walks in just right. But they don't have the angle. Nien would be able to see them if they come out of that brush early.
Yeah.
And Link is actually playing defensive, so...
And I like where he's standing as well.
Run away.
He's not in hook range without being able to see the THRESH. Like, there's no over-the-wall hooks that are possible. And Nien's the only guy in this brush because he'll learn Counter-Strike and not die and set up the counter-attack. So CLG are playing this counter-invade properly. The rest of CLG would be ready to collapse. Coast also sent an early ward down in the river brush by Dragon to watch for blue buff invades, but they're just defending the blue buff, basically.
Actually, a proper ping on where CLG thinks there might be a ward. It's interesting how Coast would have the edge of catching because of the THRESH death sentence, but if it was a 5v5 fight, Link Soraka would win if they were grouped up. Mystic Shot falls wide, but this would be a 5v4.
WizFujiiN goes in first, takes a bunch of damage, flashes out, Nintendo flashing away as well, Nien does not land the stun. The Coast forced to run away. I don't know why Ez went in first. Now Shifter forced to run. Will he learn? Yep. Dashes away. Nintendo should be fairly safe, but CLG now owns this jungle.
Very interesting. CLG manages to push Coast back 4v5 just because they got the jump on them. And because ZionSpartan's already went back to base. This is a successful blue invade that will delay NintendudeX's early jungle.
Oh, we're going to see what Coast can do off the back of this one, because right now it looks like the lane's going to be 2-on-2. Teleports go to the top lane. Quick recall from Nien will keep him safe, but Nintendo might just be stuck with only one buff here, and even Link is going to get the timer. Okay.
He's making sure to get eyes on NintendudeX so they can make sure to secure Dexter's blue buff. In fact, Nintendude is so low off of that one, and because he was warded, he is even more scared right now, which will do great things for CLG's ability to get past the early game Xin Zhao power.
And yep, so Logic Gaming already starting out nicely. Dexter going to grab the second blue buff there. So Nintendo won't get one whatsoever on this first rotation. He's going to grab the red and some lesser buffs. WizFujiiN already pushed around as well. You can see Spell Thief's Edge Aphromoo poking as best he can, doing a good job of that.
One really interesting byproduct of the Lulu nerfs that ended up happening is it didn't hit support Lulu nearly as much as it did mid Lulu, only because one of the main harassment tools for mid Lulu was putting the health picks on someone and then glitter lancing twice. That is no longer possible because of the duration of health picks being on someone. But the support Lulu almost never did that because you did not have the mana regeneration to pull that off. So Aphromoo can still play support Lulu most like he used to and have the same success.
I do want to see, though, with those changes, what ability order he goes for, because I've seen actually a lot of guys, especially a couple of the EU Challenger guys who are playing support Lulu, would actually max health pick second, whether for the shield or just the easy burst to land, but rank 1 of that's actually an unaffected ability anyway.
Look at that, Dexter level 4 at 3 minutes and 40 seconds because he's gotten 3 large buffs, whereas Nintendude is off having to do battle with the white. Still level 2, gonna hit level 3 off that though.
Yeah, so
a full level behind.
Exactly, a full level behind. The Coast Jungler right here, down in CS, down in XP. We'll see what else he can do with this one. Xin Zhao, a great ganker if he can get his way in, especially with Lanterns. Like, I want to see how safe Doublelift and Aphromoo have to play to make sure they don't succumb to ganks like this.
Well, the nice thing about the Lucian pick against the Xin Zhao is when he dashes away, he can cleanse the slow. And it becomes immensely difficult for Nintendo to have any type of sticking power against Doublelift.
Oh, that hook's going to hit a minion. Doesn't mean too much for that one, but does that count as a hit? It did hit something and, you know, pull in.
Something.
The cooldown went down when you did it. So we take a look at the lanes real quick, because obviously the jungler, Dexter is doing much better than NintendudeX. Actually, the AD carries as well. Doublelift far ahead of WizFujiiN. But ZionSpartan's doing well in lane, and so is Shiptur. So the gold actually fairly close together.
Yeah. Right now it's going to be Dexter trying to hit level 6 and take an edge. Nien running himself out of mana, so it's a bit of a farm lane here. He was late to lane, which gives ZionSpartan a bit of an edge. And Ryze really beats on melee champions, levels 1 through 5 most of the time, so he's at his strong point at this moment. Nien's got to be a little bit careful.
Not much mana as Nien forced to flash away. The Q's almost quite going to land Nintendude. His flash was down in level 1 and can't get the first blood.
If Nintendude had his flash without that level 1, that would have been a kill on Nien. So big early game plays from CLG, saving Nien in that top lane from that gank.
And Aphromoo is able to like 1v2 in this lane, basically. It's basically, Daydreamin misses a hook, and then Aphromoo says, okay, go, I can fight you, you can't turn it around, and goes in and zones the carry back. 15 minion kill lead here. There's some still left under the turret, but this is a gigantic lead, and still the poke coming through Aphromoo, completely safe back here.
This is incredibly beneficial for CLG for a number of reasons. There was a lot of talk amongst the pro teams about whether or not Feral Flare and the Feral Flare junglers are viable in pro play, because it's so difficult for junglers to actually get the large camps in a speedy enough manner for it to make an impact. Often because you see so many lane swaps lately, and 2v1s and 3v1s where junglers are trapped in lanes and not able to farm big camps. But in this game, CLG successfully forced a 2v2. Dexter has been farming up a storm, and his lanes are doing well enough that he hasn't even had to think about ganking. He has just been farming non-stop. This is the perfect situation for Nocturne to be in, where he can farm up, get Feral Flare stacks, and then just show up somewhere at level 6 with his ultimate. He's going to be level 6 most likely after double golems and be able to make plays. This is perfect for Dexter and CLG.
Well, we'll see which lane he chooses to salvage. Right now, actually, top lane is holding completely equal. Nien burned his TP to get back in the lane. ZionSpartan Material doing some major damage. Nien actually forced out rather quickly, chugging potions to keep himself alive, but Zion with heavy ward control. There's, I guess you could kind of only Nocturnal lane gank to turn this lane around.
Yeah, I wonder if they're just going to leave Nien be and hope that ZionSpartan doesn't become too much of a problem, because that lane is unfarmable for Nien right now. If he gets too far forward, he would get flashed down for Zion. Dexter didn't quite hit level 6. He's trying to get it in lane, actually. He's going to end up going back and recalling.
Keep in mind also, the teleport is up for Zion, so if Dexter does force something, if it's not a completely one-sided fight, Zion could also turn that one around. You actually might not see Dexter wanting to show up unless they think like Link's Wish will be enough or something. I do want to know what actually the choice ends up being. I know Nocturne's a faster clearer than Xin Zhao, so he'll get more Feral Flare stack, so that's an important resource for CLG. I want to see what their actual advantage comes to.
One actual advantage is that CLG's bottom lane is outclassing Coast right now.
Yeah.
THRESH Ezreal is actually a very strong laning combo, but Aphromoo and Doublelift are just obliterating them right now.
Oh, wow.
Just picked up first blood 2v2.
Yeah, that was an overextension right there. Daydreamin goes down. The summoner heals were still up, actually. Coast didn't even anticipate the damage that came through. CLG, gigantic lead down here.
Yeah, big misplays coming out from Coast there. And Doublelift also delays
not quite
nothing. He gets a lot of minions, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Half of them. Missed a bit of the culling, but it's all right. Doing well. Quick lane shove here. CLG with the shove in mid. Are they rotating Dragon, or where are they headed?
They're right now just sharing a lot of experience and making sure they have Dragon control. They actually missed that sweep, which I wonder if that's going to cost Link his life. Shifter's thinking about it. He had to run out. Yep.
Okay. Well, it looks like the collapse from Coast is in time. CLG, the mid shove, got them to the Dragon Pit, but looks like there's not going to be anything capitalized off that. Link is going to get a bit of a late recall. Shifter's going to re-hold the mid lane there. 61 to 65 in minions. Slight lead for Coast, but I mean, overall, though, you got to say CLG definitely winning the map.
CLG's in complete control. Coast's strength, or what they have traditionally relied upon against the top-tier teams, is trying to rely on their solo laners and just win laning, because they admit that they are strategically weaker than the top teams, especially CLG. CLG is playing 2v2, 1v1, and 1v1 lanes across the map and winning by 1,000 gold.
Yeah, absolutely impressive play, especially, I gotta say, Aphromoo showing up massive. First blood goes to him. He's got the Sight Stone, he's got his Frost Fang as well, so more annoyance from Lulu will be coming out very shortly. 3 points on Death Sentence for Daydreamin, 3 points in Glitter Lance for the Lulu. Zion going to get hit up right here. Very little mana on him. Nien's going to have a great trade, but he's got minions to deal with.
Yeah, Zion's going to be going back anyway. He's actually, that was actually a fairly big misplay by Nien up there, because with jumping on ZionSpartan, he allowed the wave to hit his turret so he can no longer freeze it. And he's going to lose out on denying a lot of CS to ZionSpartan, but that's the one lane going well. 2 lanes actually going well for Coast overall is their solos, but it's just the bottom lane and the jungler getting out of control.
And we'll see if Doublelift and Afro can put this game on their back. They said they'd do it at the beginning of the year. Said, you know, now that supports get more gold, we can make more plays. Yeah. We can single-handedly carry the team, or I guess two-handedly carry the team. That would make more sense. And right now, yeah, they're the entire reason for CLG winning right here. ZionSpartan, 10 minion lead, still actually walking to the lane. He's kept his teleport available the last 2 times he's recalled. So he's really waited to turn something around if a dive does happen.
He hasn't been heavily pressured in that lane. It's gotten off a lot of farm, which is why Dexter's waiting in the wings. Level 8, same level as Zion. And Zion is still rather squishy. If Nien could get a stun, they could chain something. But that wave is going to push too far. This is not an extremely gankable lane. Dexter would require a lot of patience to get a kill here.
He's going to slink into brush number 2. Can't quite reach the 3rd one. Look at that pesky melee minion.
He would actually have to wait for ZionSpartan to push this wave out, with which he has no motivation to, unless Nien was actually very low. If Dexter wants his kill, I feel like he's going to have to wait a really long time.
Can they just force it under the turret with their CC? It's unlikely, but they're going to try. There's the ulti popped in. The stun comes by as well. Zion flashes, gets away from the fear. Can he get the AoEs down to keep himself alive? Taking even more pain. Wish comes through. Dexter's going to make it enough. Nien takes turret shots. Counter Logic Gaming get the turret dive to top lane.
They did a couple things actually really well with that dive, is they had Nien tanking the turret with the armor and magic resist of his Jax ultimate, and they had the Soraka ult come in to heal them extra. So a big force of a dive there. But they do make it work out. Props to CLG for a good tactical maneuver.
And Coast don't get the kill back on that one. The recalls come through in time. CLG fully safe. Excellent play by these team. And Link's just going to hold the mid lane, right? You got the wish, got the assist credit. And then he gets, you know, to push down the mid lane and get the minions back against Shiptur.
That gank really just goes to show you how vulnerable Ryze is to ganks in the early game. I wonder if Dexter's going to continue to do that on his ultimate cooldown until ZionSpartan gets a little bit of armor, because those ganks will be free. The fact that they could do that on top of a turret with Zion's flash up and still get a successful kill shows how vulnerable he is.
Yeah, everything burned, didn't even matter. The flash is used by CLG, but of course well played. So, now closer to 2,000 gold. Counter Logic Gaming wanting to win the best of 3. Secure the LCS spot. Move on to the semifinals. It's going to be all the things that CLG wants to do. They are one of the, I guess you could say, favorites for, you know, the #1 run.
If you're just trying to rank teams based off their mid and late season success, they're in the conversation for top team in North America. If they win this one, that match against TSM could be anyone's game. Yet not quite getting in range for the stun. Good ward by ZionSpartan.
Yeah, the Nocturne waiting around. Dexter's looking to make plays, but even if he's not getting too many ganks, he's still farming very successfully. Both junglers now have their wriggles. Actually, more damage added for Dexter going towards, I'm guessing, Cutlass, actually, on the Nocturne. So a very damage-heavy jungler pickup here. Dexter really embracing the Pharaoh Flare changes.
The build on Nocturne is Pharaoh Flare with Blade of the Ruin King. You just rip through everything. It also has incredible Baron threat once he completes those items. They could 2-man it with Nien and Dexter when they get those items.
Oh man, that's absolutely true. That's going to be a scary thing if that ever does happen. Coast would fall rather far behind if that came through. Right now, just a more passive game, and it's really the laning phase for a large portion of it. Nien finally getting his first real minion lead in the top lane. The kills, of course, helping that one. Once again, Dexter just showing up to wave clear mid, but it frees up some time for Link to get the recalls without losing much to his turret. But the big story as well is just the fact that Doublelift and Aphromoo are winning so heavily in this bottom lane. A bunch more gold from the GP10 that Afro picked up. The 30 minion lead as well for the AD carries. It's honestly just like CLG, like they can play the laning phase and they'll grow a lead that way.
Doublelift is 800 gold above WizFujiiN, and Aphromoo is also 750 gold above Daydreamin. You add those guys two together, that's a 1,500 gold lead accrued over only 13.5 minutes by the CLG bottom lane.
Yeah, that's
without jungler intervention.
Yeah. 3/4 of the CLG gold lead is just that bottom lane right there. That is like the reason that Counter Logic Gaming is winning right now. Even the first blood and everything else, right? All that adds up here. So, Dexter taking away more of the camps. 72 minions on him. Playing a very farm-heavy style, Afro.
This is actually quite dangerous by CLG. We'll see if they can pull it off. Nien has no teleport, whereas ZionSpartan does. It could be a forced 5v5 by Coast, but CLG is daring them to come.
And dude slinking around, puts the ward down. CLG does have to back off. Cutlass first Ezreal, actually, WizFujiiN going for a pretty self-sufficient build here in the back line.
He does that frequently.
Yeah.
WizFujiiN will rush Blade of the Ruined King more so than anyone else. It's because he really loves self-peel and just staying alive in fights because they rely so heavily on their solo laners.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you don't have a real tank line like you do with a lot of other conventional teams. You bring in carry top laners, carry mid laners, they're going to go get kills on their own, and you have to play by yourself. We'll see how well WizFujiiN can stay alive. He hasn't died here, but he's been pushed under the turret so much he's not getting many minions. Still trying to gain some levels. Level 8 and 8 versus 9 and 8, so gold and XP lead for the CLG bottom lane. No big surprise though, because they're winning. But it's a very patient game. Dexter going to look for his next gank. His ulti is back up. I don't know, Coast very rarely are past the river though. They're difficult kills to grab, and you've got heals and flashes available.
It's important to note that we're only 50 minutes in and the Pharaoh Flare has been transformed for Dexter, whereas NintendudeX is on 18 of the 25 stacks, but this pink ward could turn into a fight.
And he gets the lantern though, gets himself out, but there might still be an engaged. Dexter on the front lines. Glitter Lamps does not quite land. He's still chasing though. Teleport comes in. Nien, the box comes down. Daydreamin gonna get stunned up though. Does he have anywhere to go? He does not. Down goes the Coast support. CLG 3-0 in kills and control over Dragon.
The very deep pink ward comes in clutch for CLG. ZionSpartan does not match that teleport because Coast was on the retreat. Means a kill and a dragon, plus they still hold the mid lane.
Big damage comes through. Shiptur finds the kill, and Aphromoo even wish is not enough. Blue team takes down Dragon though. That's going to be secured by Dexter. Nintendude forced to run. He'll survive, but a counter kill for Coast.
Yeah, they do get one back onto their most important player as well. Shiptur with the DFG burst surprises CLG with that damage. Overall though, still big advantage gained by CLG.
Yeah, 3,500 gold there. That number keeps going up. Watch that kill again real quick.
Yeah, it was pretty much just Aphromoo getting hit by the chains and the full combo from Shiptur. Link's ultimate, I think, came in after he was dead. It was just an unexpected amount of damage.
And one thing they did do is they forced Link to heal himself and immediately switched targets to burst down. I think the wish came through in time. I want to say it did. I know the particle kind of
it was
well,
the
either way,
combo from LeBlanc onto a support with little to no magic resist. But this is ZionSpartan being a little vulnerable. 3-man gank, look out.
This does not look good for Rise. The 1v3 comes in. He's going to get feared up under the turret as well. Nowhere else to go. The heal helps keep Nien alive, and that's going to be pressure on the top turret.
I wonder if CLG overcommitted that. They actually set 4 up, and that leaves them vulnerable to some counter pushing by Coast. How well can they use their teamwork to get some of these turrets down?
Okay, so far 1 turret for 0. We're going to see how these numbers shape up. Coast pushing the mid lane rather fast, making it a 1-for-1. Also, WizFujiiN is pushing on the bottom side, but even still, it's going to be a second-tier turret in the top lane that CLG are almost definitely going to get, which still is a positive trade for CLG.
But also does mean that Shiptur will be slightly unlocked to roam. Not the most ideal trade, but CLG will take it if they can get something back in the mid lane. The mid lane is fairly low. Shifter's far too threatening.
Yeah. One-shots caster minions. Sends a message that, hey, that could be your champion. Be careful about that one. Level 12 right now on LeBlanc has Sork shoes as well. The build we typically see from DFG first LeBlanc is Void Staff next. We'll see if that is his choice.
It's generally for more magic penetration because DFG is just accentuating all the base damages early on.
And I want to see how the builds progress. So Nien grabbed early Merc Treads to survive both Rise and even LeBlanc.
There's a lot of Merc Treads on there too.
Yeah. Dexter is still squishy though. Like Dexter has no MR or no bonus health in his kit. But ZionSpartan gonna face check into a Jax. Slowed down. Spells come through. He should be taking some more damage actually.
No
Nien
turret
really
there.
wants this. You're right. There is no turret. Nien might get the 1v1 kill. Zion gets a lantern just in time. Daydreamin saves him.
Still a good hide-and-go seek by Nien. I wonder if it's going to cost him. He popped his ultimate throughout that. Gonna wish he had it right about now.
DFG comes out, the wish comes through, there's the ignite, maybe later than you would have wished though. Nocturne ult comes through for the mid lane now, Nintendude locked up, pops the ulti, Link getting the damage through, Hex comes in, they get the lantern, the heals come through, keeps him alive. Top lane kill doesn't fall through either.
Nien also, yep, as you say, managed to escape, but CLG with the ultimates and the commitment by Coast get another turret.
Looks like it's going to be even more damage. Daydreamin forced back. ZionSpartan doing his best to defend. That tier 2 will survive, but we're at now 5,500 gold, 19 minutes in. The number is continually growing. CLG keep finding those rotational advantages, the pushes, the better fights, and they're growing leads.
Smites that away as well. Dexter getting more and more farmed. 100 CS on Nocturne.
2-0-1.
Yep, Feral Flare as well is at 8 stacks already. So his life on hit is what we actually need to keep track of. Nocturne turns into a bit of a life-stealing monster if he gets a very stacked Feral Flare. Even though it does do some nice magic damage, it's really the life steal and the life on hit that makes these builds so potent.
So right now he's at 18. It's 10 plus number of stacks. That'll keep growing, of course, 1 per stack. So far, still no Feral Flare for Nintendude. Almost 20 minutes in. Sinjao is a bit of a slow stacker, but...
It's not about the flare for Xin. Like, it is nice for him to have it later in the game, but it's about the early game ganking and the early game pressure, and that's actually not where Nintendude's been able to come through.
And only 1 kill for his team. He has been part of his only team's kill, to be fair, but that was the one mid lane
100%
dive.
kill participation.
True, yeah. I mean, Shiptur and Nintendude are doing their job. They got that 1 kill onto Aphromoo, but unfortunately no other plays have yet been made. The flash that was burned at level 1, I think is just kind of heartbreaking because that was a successful gank attempt. They got Nien's flash, but Nintendo couldn't follow up.
Something that's a little bit interesting here about Link's build is he's really disrespecting the physical damage on Coast by building that Negatron Cloak with Mercury Treads and an Athena's Unholy Grail. He's just completely against the double AP, and he knows since WizFujiiN built Blade of the Ruined King first, he's not going to be a damaging threat. And Soraka is completely fine just stacking magic resistance and making sure he can't get assassinated by Shifter's LeBlanc.
That's a good choice there. He's going to rely on Nien for the damage, and Dexter. I mean, you got a Feral Flare, Blade of the Ruined King, Berserkers, Greaves, Jungler now. Like, you don't need more damage threats at that point. Just go be durable, go give your team some help with this one. I would expect Aegis at some point to come through because you're facing Fed double AP. Like, this feels like the right choice at this point. Coast still on the wave for you. You're seeing LeBlanc getting most of those minions under the turret. 197 minions to 163 of WizFujiiN. It's definitely where the damage is coming in right now.
CLG's just very controlled right now in the way they're pulling this off. Shifter has not been able to roam around. CLG has done a very good job of taking out Coast Pink wards when they're there. You can see Coast is desperately trying to get vision control back. That's why they have 3 sweepers despite being pushed back, because without roam, they cannot succeed. But here's the dive, 5v3.
Gonna do what they can. You got a little while till the next 2 people come in. Daydreamin goes down. Dexter claims that kill, gets healed up in the process. Turret will fall as well. Coast cannot stop that onslaught of damage.
Nice dash away by Doublelift as well to prevent the assassination. Coast might try and find something extra off the back of this, but they're already down to support. And the dragon is up. CLG is going to try and force this one. They kill it so fast.
Yeah, it's going to be theirs without any contest, it looks like. It's going to be even more gold going this way. 7,000-ish gold. 7,700 gold. I mean, CLG completely in control. 2 of 2 dragons. They're not giving away anything.
Yeah, and this was just because they saw the rise was not near and they knew how well they could dive. Jax and Nocturne lead the way, and everyone else just kind of piles on. Because they have so many shields and heals, they are not afraid of that turret. And expect more of that from CLG. Nien and Dexter will be able to get those turret dives down soon. And there's the Aegis actually onto Link.
Yeah. So that was his choice of Negatron Ruby Crystal. It wasn't even Spectre Scowl.
He's going much more supportive on that mid lane Soraka. Very interesting choice. Normally you see the mid lane Sorakas go with the Rylai's right after their Athena's Unholy Grail, but just because they're against double AP and because they're such a teamwork-oriented team, it doesn't really matter who builds the ore items because the gold is equally shared amongst 4 of them at this point, with so much of the gold going to Dexter.
Massive jungle threat. I love. Yeah, it's
wanted
completely
mid
different
laners
style.
to do this for a very long time, or even top laners to just build team fight oriented items when the game becomes about team fighting and not about laning.
I think the case right here, CLG making that adaptation very successfully. First team I've seen really do that on the world stage here.
Yeah.
Professional stage. Coast forced to back away. The CLG onslaught, the 5 members together, there's no way Coast can stand up to that. Their damage hasn't really come through. Void Staff might help Shifter a bit. He can maybe pierce through some of that MR. But he's the only guy I feel like can make a gigantic impact right now in fights. You've got so long to go till WizFujiiN gets any items.
And with all the heals that are on 3 members of CLG, just the summoner spells, and the magic resist aura from the Aegis that's on Link, Shifter can't kill anyone. And unless Coast could somehow do a high amount of sustained damage, like Rise getting through several rotations of spells, CLG is untouchable in these teamfights. They have built just right to maximize their gold advantage. And they're going to be looking to force some pretty big things very soon.
Well, right now, that looks like the force is going to be around Baron so far. Actually, Nien fairly low on health. He and Dexter are two-manning it.
This is a little bit risky. They're very low, and he jumps in with little health and no backup.
Wow, double the one-shot Shifter. Without that, it's going to be enough. CLG pick up 2 kills right here. Aphro still making the plays, but goes down to Baron. He can't get help from his team just yet. Nien finally shows up. Dexter around the wall as well. Half HP. WizFujiiN can't possibly dual link here. This should be Baron.
They're trying to teleport in with Rise. This could still be a contest by Coast. I wonder how much damage Rise is going to do when he hops in. Link gets jumped on as well. Baron is aborted.
2-man stun, gigantic engage as well. Nintendude very, very low. Hexdrinker pops, but Link will almost pick up the kill. Yeah, the Q from Doublelift does it. ZionSpartan now the only member alive. Daydreamin actually respawns, making it a 2v4 sort of. Doublelift still in the chase.
Back
just
to
buying
Baron.
kills.
Yeah, that kill in the mid lane on Shifter was surprising. Doublelift with the magic resist does find the solo, and they're just back onto Baron. The life on hit and life steal of CLG's Nocturne right there gets him the Baron. Even more control. Great aggressive play making by CLG.
Link is smiling there in the bottom corner. He knows they're doing great.
Yeah, this was a little bit crazy when the Rise came in around the back, and it looked like it could be dangerous from CLG. But because Dexter was mainly the one tanking the Baron, he is able to stay healthy once Rise comes in, and he still has his flash to go over the wall. At that point, Coast just has to abort. WizFujiiN is very weak. Nice, he has his flash up and just pops him down. So CLG just stronger in every way.
Absolutely.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Lock of the Iron Solari completed. Even more shields come in for CLG now. Dexter builds a Negatron cloak as well, so he's tanky as well as having a lot of life on hit.
Yeah. And they run such a completely different style of team. Like, just, you know, they put the lineup together. It's a carry jungle Nocturne who's just now started his first defensive items of a Warden's Mail and Negatron Cloak after he finished 2 fully offensive items and Berserker's Greaves. Nien's actually going for a carry-focused top laner. Had a tough landing phase against Rise. Yeah. I think it's just a rough matchup in general. It's my sort of blind guess, having just
Nien
observed
has
the
also
matchup.
always excelled in team fights.
Yeah.
He's very good at moving with the rest of the CLG team.
And it's working. 1-0-5. Right, bad start to the lane, still succeeded very successfully. Nien in the chase against WizFujiiN. Not going to chase that one down, gets a Lantern just in case. Mid lane inhibitor turret, though, goes down. 9-1 in kills, 12,000 gold lead. CLG still pushing forward.
Yeah, and there's almost no way of Coast to get them out of this one. I wonder how many inhibitors CLG is going to take during the duration of this Baron buff. They still have a fair amount of time left on it. CLG is looking so good for you.
They absolutely are. They're playing this, I think, pretty much perfectly. I love their builds. I love the fact that they changed their kind of composition around to how the game is. They want to play it. There goes the middle inhibitor 27 minutes in.
Now they'll rotate down to the bottom lane, get that wave pushed up as well, and maybe take another. Coast is afraid to engage. They don't have the hard initiation.
Yeah.
If they do walk into the team fight, Soraka's Star Call will shred them out. Plus, it's an easy kill for whoever Nien and Dexter jump on as long as they go as dive buddies.
Yeah, last time they were in a fight like this, there comes the dive actually. Dexter going in. There's a jump away from WizFujiiN. Will keep himself alive, but down goes NintendudeX. CLG now inside the base once more. Bottom inhibitor turret goes down. This could very well be the game. Nien just taking a bit of damage, doesn't even care.
Yeah, they really only killed one because the rest of Coast had to back away. They're probably going to just rotate and take inhibitor number 3. There's no reason for them not to right now. The only question remains is if they decide to wait for the minions.
Looks like CLG is going to be impatient with this one. Baron buff still for about a minute 20 actually. To back off a little bit, Dexter takes one more parting shot. Yeah, they pick back in the wave. I'll grab that before too long. Nien's full health anyway. They have Baron buff and they've got a Soraka. Not a problem.
Aphro trying to take some farm.
Get it! Yeah. 18 CS. He's winning his matchup.
Yeah. Gold-wise across the board, they're all sitting on a fair chunk. Everyone on CLG over 1,000. So unspent gold is high, but with the Baron buff, the level advantages, and 2 super minion waves soon to push into the base. Sitting pretty. This is an insurmountable lead at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. It's going to be the game closing out. 29 minutes in now. Top inhibitor. Soon to be the target. Super minion's going to be flooding into the base very shortly. Mid and bot both dead. They're about half a wave away from making it in. Shifter might have to defend bottom lane, but here comes the next wave up at the top. Nien leads the charge, puts the stun up, goes for the engage, finds 3 with it. The knockup from Lulu as well. Big engage. Daydreamin's going to go down once again. Nintendude in the front line's also going to fall. They do find Dexter for this one, but still, a 2-for-1 is enough for CLG to keep pushing in. Doublelift forces the backline away by himself, and the third and final inhibitor will go down.
Well, they did land a nice combo on a Dexter, but they're not strong enough to push off these minions, Freak. 12 kills to 2, 30 minutes in, the dive continues.
Another engage, ZionSpartan forced to run away one more time. Nexus turret number 1 will fall. Nien actually forced back, taking a lot of punishment. Little Lance as well, CLG trying to keep their health bars up. Gonna be the engage here, Shiptur can't quite find enough. Nien survives one more time. And now the Nexus under fire. Coast, the respawns are so frequent this early in the game. Another engage, Nien doesn't land the stun, actually goes down, but that's gonna be the Nexus 30-minute win. CLG taking game 1.
CLG is gonna try and make quick work of this series here. Such a nice performance there.
Yeah.
12 kills to 3. They bring out something new. Link goes 0-0-10 on mid lane. Locket of the Iron, Solari, Soraka. They were able to withstand Shiptur's LeBlanc pick because that was really the big threat from there. And now, Freak, you have to look towards game 2. What does Coast do? They had their Jax taken away from them. Yes, they get blue side, so they have first pick. They get a little bit of wiggle room right there. But this is a dire circumstance because that wasn't close.
It wasn't, and I really think it just snowballed 90% from that bottom lane. Because the other lanes were holding equal or winning in CS. Now, to be fair, Dexter had a great gank and made Nien win the lane. Like, that was awesome. That was a force by CLG that worked very successfully. It was good by them. But, like, there were severe misplays in Coast bottom lane. Like, Daydreamin died with all 4 summoners available to the team. The level 1, WizFujiiN face check Tri-Brush. Yeah. Q didn't hit. He's like, great, I'll lead the charge.
It's true.
But Nien was on the other side
Down
of that
a flash
brush.
early on in that lane does hurt. Against a lane as talented as Aphromoo and Doublelift.
Oh, sure.
You're not able to make those types of errors early on. And then it just continued to push itself after that. I mean, by the end of the game, 290 CS for Doublelift. So he did farm as well as win. 290 at 29 minutes ain't too shabby.
It's a great job.
Yeah.
It's absolutely great performance. So we're going to send it across the studio, though, for more on CLG's victory.
Thank you very much, Freak. And that was an impressive game 1 from Counterlogic Gaming. From the opening minutes, it seemed like CLG had control. Level 1, there was an invade from Coast. Bit more than they could chew.
The Ezreal
Lost,
face check.
Yeah, face check lost 2 flashes. And from there on out, you just felt like CLG just had complete control of the laning phase.
Yeah, that level 1 was definitely very bad for Coast. It's not like they didn't try, though. He shot a mystic shot in the bush to start it off. That's why he face-checked it. He missed everybody that was in the bush, though.
To be fair, that's a pretty small missile for the width of the whole area.
Yeah. The thing is, though, it took away Nintendu's flash, got him behind in the jungle, so Dexter gets a 3-buff start. So they won the jungle from that invade. They also won the bottom lane from that invade because Aphromoo got a huge chunk out of WizFujiiN, and they basically just rolled over the lane from there. So that was jungle and bottom lane heavily for CLG.
But I don't even think it's the level 1 that was that important for bottom. I mean, when they died, neither person used their heal. Both the heals were up after he died.
We're not going to gloss over that mistake, but I mean,
Yeah, it hurt them. Yes, he was chunked at the start, but I think it was just misplay altogether. If you die without using your summoner spells, it's just unacceptable. And you could see it like all game. Like NintendudeX, he seemed really out of his element. The fact that he had to start, didn't get a pull, he had to start his red buff. They saw him start his red buff. He walked up and warded. He was like, hey, I see you there, man. So he's pretty scared to even just finish his red buff. So that put him behind. But I think that Coast could have had a chance to catch back up. They didn't make any of the right moves for it.
It didn't seem like they had the confidence to take the initiative and make any of those moves.
Yeah, there was a lot of times when, yeah, the moment is right there in front of them. It's like, hey, you can do this.
We've got a replay of this. We've actually got a replay of this. It's a little bit obscure because nothing's going to happen. But when we were watching the first 20 minutes of the game, Saint, you were speaking out quite loudly about the dragon control, dragon decisions from Coast. Let's pull this first replay up onto your screens. It is at about 8:25 on the clock. Now, the thing that I want you guys to keep your eyes on is the minimap and where the people are moving. And Saint, talk us through what Coast could have done and decision making.
Okay, so here is, I think it was a huge miscommunication thing all throughout Coast. Jax's TP is down right here, you can see that. I'm pretty sure they didn't communicate that to his team. And also on top of that, Ryze chunks out Jax in a trade up here, which you're about to see. And just like those two factors together should be just a red flag that, hey, we got to move on Dragon, we got to seize this moment.
And they've seen Soraka backing in the bottom lane as well.
Soraka's backing in the bottom, and also if you remember, Doublelift and Aphromoo had been pushing up bottom lane, and they got that kill, but they hadn't backed yet. So Coast bottom lane had backed, they're on fresh items. It's just right there. It's like, hey, take Dragon, punish them for what they did. And they just look scared.
The reason we bring that up is it's not the only time it happened. About 5 or 6 minutes later, there was another scenario, and you were sitting here going, why didn't it go away? Is it nerves? Is it tension? What are some of the theories as to why Coast could have done it? Playing it safe? Maybe not seeing it? Maybe being scared? It's quarterfinals.
I don't want to say playing it safe because it almost looked like a communication thing. If they had that information, it's like, hey, Jax is chunked out. He doesn't have his TP. Like, we have to move on this. You know, nobody wants to make that call, make that critical call. And you have to make those calls to win the game. It's not just like, hey, like, let's just farm it out and hope that things go the best. And yeah.
It seems like they were so worried about making a mistake like that, making a bad call, that they don't make any calls.
Yeah.
And people have said so many times, it's better to have everyone follow a shot caller, even if sometimes they make the bad calls, than it is to have all these people making their own calls or nobody doing anything. There's no decisive moves. You can't win games like that.
Well, we do have a decisive move. This time it was CLG that pulled this first kill, or one of the kills rather. Let's pull a second replay up onto the screens. Starting off, this is, of course, a Baron Pit fight much later in the game. We know Doublelift gets a kill 1v1 on Shiptur. Kobe, talk us through maybe some of the calling here from CLG. Let's roll the clip out.
So I do like, especially the popular two-man Barons with the Pharaoh Flares nowadays, but they make the quick call. I don't even know how he soloed him over there, but they make the call to jump over the wall, not once, but twice, even though Aphromoo stays in there and they want to keep on this Baron. They have Soraka, who's amazing at zoning. She can continue to heal herself up here and zone off the rest of the team while they do that duo-man Baron, and they have the sustain here. Everybody can jump over the wall, so they come over again, second time, and then even though Shiptur does come in the back, there's nothing left for Coast here because they've already taken out 2 of the people.
At this point in the game, you really felt like CLG were in complete control. Coast struggled. We were touching on Dexter versus Nintendude, and I briefly want to talk about how effective Dexter was on Nocturne. Went unkilled, picked up a Blade of the Rune King super early on. He seemed to be farming and ganking well. As well as CLG having a very sort of meta composition. So what's your take on Dexter individually, and then, of course, the team comp that CLG were running?
I think Dexter had a much, much, much better grasp than NintendudeX did on the Peril player changes, because you should always keep it in your mind, I have to power farm, I have to reach my power spike, I just have to stay ahead of the other guy. And even though he only got off a few ganks, every time his paranoia was up, he'd show up top lane, and he would just snowball that Jax. NintendudeX, he didn't really gank that much. He got that one gank on top, which wasn't, of course, really successful because he didn't have the flash. But if you know that you can't get successful ganks off, your other option is just to farm as hard as you possibly can and to control Dragon. And he didn't do any of that.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
I think the older mindset of junglers kind of showed in Nintendude's play here because he's playing from behind, so he's trying to catch back up. And usually going to these empty lanes where your laner just died and cleaning up the lane farm is a good thing. But like you said, when you're Pharaoh Flare, you're trying to get it stacked up as quickly as possible. And he was like 20 stacks behind. Yeah, he was way behind on stacks there for the Pharaoh Flare, which means that your power spike is not going to come through.
So I got a question. I want to look at 3 summoner heals, rushing Locket of the Iron Solari, second item on mid Soraka, 0010 by Link. Kobe, what do you think of the pick? What do you think of the items?
The mid Soraka, of course, it's super strong right now. With the addition of heal, it makes it even worse than the barrier mid Sorakas that were already really strong because now she has the move speed also, and she can take off the ignite debuff. But I do like the Locket pickup on her. Cooldown reduction is extremely important on any champion where you're spamming any sort of spell. It's like, it doesn't matter how short the cooldown is, like Evelynn, even though the cooldown is really short on her Q, since you're using it on cooldown, that's a maximum effectiveness that you can get out of cooldown reduction. Same idea with Soraka. She's always spamming Star Call. You want cooldown reduction, and it's a great defensive, tanky item there. So really good team play from Link around this time.
Yep. I also want to point out that LeBlanc actually has the advantage in lane over that. But once it comes out of laning phase, anytime LeBlanc ever goes in on your team, you just silence her. And it's like, hey, look, she's just kind of standing in our team. Let's kill her.
Link the combo breaker.
We'll have to see what happens in Game 2. Right now, we do have to take a quick break. And when we come back, as we've mentioned, it is Game 2 of CLG versus Coast. But first, with so much on the line, players have a tough decision to make when it comes to champ select. Play what you know or play to counter your opponents. It's the age-old question of comfort versus strategy.
If every person on your team could play every champion at the highest level, it's always best to pick for team common strategy. But if not, mostly you should pick for comfort.
For us as a team, Cloud9, I think we usually go for strategically good champions.
You should always go with comfort if you can't like actually out-strategize them.
You kind of want to have a mix of both.
If you don't have both, then it's probably not a good pick.
That's what makes the great team so great, is they're playing comfortable and they also have a really good strategy.
Going into the first game of best of 3, it's probably a good approach to try to pick strategically.
If it doesn't work, then the next game you're thinking, well, they had an answer to what we planned.
A lot of people like lose with the comp in the first 2 games and just like throw it away, even if it's possibly the best comp that they have prepared.
No team wants to let it go to 3 games. At that point, I'm going more with comfort. I'm going with what? It's like, okay, what's calling to me? What am I feeling?
When everything's on the line, I think I'd go for the comfort pick.
You should be comfortable on all the champions that you're ready to whip out in LCS.